Have you ever wondered what truly happens in that quiet, mysterious silence when a life comes to an end? We have all stood at the edge of that great unknown, perhaps feeling a profound stillness, a sense that everything has stopped. But what if that stillness is merely an illusion created by the limitations of our human senses? What if, in the deepest layers of reality, in the quantum fabric of our existence, there is no end at all, but rather a magnificent, continuous transformation? This is a journey into the first hour after the final breath, not through the lens of fear or sorrow, but through the gentle, illuminating light of quantum physics. Let us embark on this quiet journey together, exploring the delicate dance of energy and information that occurs when the physical vessel finally rests. Our bodies, these complex biological machines, are governed by the same physical laws that dictate the birth and death of stars, the swirling of galaxies, and the silent expansion of the universe. To understand the transition of death, we must first look at the fundamental rules of existence, rules discovered by brilliant minds over centuries of careful observation. One of the most beautiful and profound principles in all of science is the first law of thermodynamics. This law tells us with absolute certainty that energy can never be created and it can never be destroyed. It can only change its form. Think about the profound implications of this ancient truth. Every spark of electrical energy pulsing through your nervous system right now, every subtle vibration of heat keeping you warm, every quiet hum of cellular activity, none of it can simply vanish into nothingness. The universe does not allow energy to disappear. It demands transformation. So, when the heart beats its final rhythm and the lungs release their last breath, the energy that animated that body does not cease to exist. Instead, it begins a quiet, invisible journey back into the vast cosmos from which it originally emerged. In those first few seconds and minutes, a profound shift occurs at the microscopic level. The biological systems that maintained order, that fought against the natural tendency toward chaos, begin to power down. But the quantum information, the fundamental blueprint of that unique existence, enters a new phase. In the realm of quantum mechanics, we find phenomena that challenge our everyday understanding of reality. We find particles that can exist in multiple states at once, particles that remain mysteriously connected across vast distances, and fields of energy that permeate all of space and time. Our bodies are ultimately composed of these quantum entities. We are made of atoms, which are made of protons, neutrons, and electrons, which are themselves manifestations of underlying quantum fields. When the macroscopic order of the body begins to dissolve, the quantum components do not simply vanish. They are released. They begin to interact with the environment in new ways. The heat energy begins to radiate outward, warming the surrounding air ever so slightly. The electrical potential in the brain, the delicate web of synapses and neurons that housed memories and thoughts, begins to dissipate, its energy spreading into the electromagnetic field of the earth. It is a gentle unbinding, a release of the concentrated energy of a single life back into the infinite reservoir of the universe. To truly appreciate the scale and beauty of this process, we must shrink our perspective down to the level of the infinitesimally small. Imagine diving deep into a single human cell, past the membrane, past the intricate machinery of the mitochondria, down into the nucleus, and further still, into the very atoms that make up the strands of DNA. Here, in this hidden quantum realm, the rules of classical physics fade away, replaced by the strange and beautiful mathematics of probability and wave functions. In the first hour after physical death, this quantum realm is anything but still. It is a symphony of activity, a complex redistribution of energy and information. Some scientists, exploring the cutting edge of quantum biology, have proposed that the structure of consciousness itself might be deeply tied to these quantum processes. They suggest that tiny structures within our brain cells, called microtubules, might be capable of sustaining delicate quantum states. While this remains an area of active, rigorous debate and exploration, it opens up profound questions about the nature of the mind and its relationship to the physical brain. If our consciousness is indeed rooted in quantum phenomena, what happens to that quantum information when the biological support system fails? Does it simply collapse, losing its coherence? Or does it, perhaps, disperse into the broader quantum field of the universe, retaining some fundamental pattern, some subtle echo of the life that was? These are questions that sit at the very frontier of human knowledge, where physics meets philosophy, and where science approaches the profound mysteries of existence. But even without knowing the ultimate fate of consciousness, we can find deep comfort and awe in the physical reality of what occurs. The atoms that make up our bodies are ancient. The carbon, the oxygen, the nitrogen, the iron. All of these elements were forged in the fiery cores of stars billions of years ago. When those massive stars ended their lives in spectacular supernova explosions, they scattered their enriched material across the cosmos. That material eventually coalesced to form our solar system, our planet, and ultimately, us. We are, quite literally, made of star stuff, as the brilliant astronomer Carl Sagan so beautifully reminded us. In the first hour of transition, this star stuff begins its journey home. The unbinding of the biological form is the first step in a long, slow process of returning to the universe. The carbon atoms that once formed a beating heart will eventually find their way back into the soil, into the air, into the roots of trees and the bodies of other living creatures. The water molecules that flowed through veins will evaporate, join the clouds, and fall as rain upon distant oceans. There is no true ending, only a continuous magnificent cycle of matter and energy. This realization brings a profound sense of peace. It reminds us that we are not separate from the universe, looking out at it from a state of isolation. We are deeply, fundamentally intertwined with the cosmos. We are a temporary arrangement of ancient atoms, a fleeting pattern of energy that has been granted the extraordinary privilege of experiencing itself. The quiet silence of a room after a passing is not an empty void. It is a space filled with the subtle, invisible movement of energy transforming. It is the sound of the universe reclaiming its own, a gentle embrace welcoming a weary traveler back into the infinite fold. Let us explore further into this first hour, moving past the initial moments, and looking closer at the intricate processes that unfold within the fading biological machinery. As the oxygen supply is cut off, the cells, deprived of their vital fuel, must shift their metabolic strategies. They enter a state of crisis, yes, but even in this crisis, there is a complex, almost beautiful sequence of chemical reactions. Enzymes, the tiny molecular machines that usually build and repair, begin to break down the cellular structures. It is a highly ordered dismantling, a careful taking apart of the incredibly complex architecture that sustained life. This process, often viewed with fear, is in reality a perfectly natural mechanism, the universe's way of recycling its precious resources, The energy released during this microscopic unbinding contributes to the gradual cooling of the body, a process that follows strict thermodynamic laws. Every degree of temperature lost is an exact measurement of energy transferred from the individual back to the surrounding environment. This energy might gently warm a blanket, or dissipate into the air of a quiet hospital room, or eventually radiate out through a window and up toward the cold, dark expanse of space. Nothing is lost. Every single joule of energy is accounted for in the grand cosmic ledger. And what of the electrical activity? The human brain is an incredibly powerful electrical organ. It operates through the continuous firing of billions of neurons, creating a complex, ever-shifting electromagnetic field. In the minutes following the cessation of blood flow, this electrical activity does not stop instantly. There is a gradual fading, a slow dimming of the intricate networks. Some studies suggest that there might even be brief surges of highly synchronized electrical activity in these final moments, a phenomenon that scientists are still struggling to fully understand. Could these surges be the brain's final attempt to restore order? Or might they represent something more profound, a final, intense burst of conscious experience before the physical structure gives way? The data is fascinating and invites deep contemplation. We know that the electromagnetic fields generated by the brain extend beyond the physical boundaries of the skull. Sensitive instruments can detect these fields at a distance. When the brain's activity finally ceases, this local electromagnetic field collapses, but the energy that sustained it does not disappear. It ripples outward, interacting with the Earth's own massive magnetic field, adding its tiny, subtle signature to the continuous electrical hum of our planet. The information, the complex patterns of synaptic connections that represented a lifetime of memories, thoughts, and loves, physicalizes as structure. When that structure dissolves, does the information vanish? In quantum physics, there is a fundamental principle called the conservation of information. It states that the fundamental quantum information of a system cannot be destroyed. This principle is so deeply embedded in our understanding of physics that it led to a decades-long debate among the greatest minds, including Stephen Hawking, about whether black holes could truly destroy information. The consensus leans heavily toward preservation. Information, like energy, must be conserved. If this is true for black holes, the most extreme environments in the universe, it must also be true for the subtle, delicate systems of a human life. The exact mechanism of how this information is conserved after physical death is a mystery that science has not yet unraveled. Perhaps it is encoded in the subtle radiation emitted as the body cools. Perhaps it becomes entangled with the surrounding environment in ways we cannot yet measure. Or perhaps, as some daring theories suggest, it is absorbed into a deeper, underlying quantum field that permeates all of reality. The beauty of this perspective is that it removes the finality of physical death. It replaces the concept of an absolute end with the concept of a profound, continuous transformation. The first hour after death is not a period of silence and nothingness. It is an hour of incredible, unseen activity. It is the beginning of a grand journey of unbinding and returning. The atoms that made you, the energy that moved you, the fundamental information that defined you, all begin their transition back into the vast, ancient cosmos. It is a return to the source, a reintegration into the infinite tapestry of the universe. As we delve deeper into this quiet space of the first hour, we must gently shift our gaze from the fading warmth of the physical form to the invisible, intricate dance of the subatomic world. Imagine, if you will, the profound silence that settles over a room when a life completes its earthly journey. To our ordinary senses, it appears as a sudden stillness, a cessation of all meaningful movement. But if we could somehow adjust our perception, if we could see the universe through the lens of quantum mechanics, we would witness a scene of breathtaking, dynamic activity. We would see that the silence is not empty at all. It is teeming with the gentle, continuous exchange of energy and information. Let us consider the very atoms that construct our biological vessels. These are not solid, static building blocks, but rather vibrating fields of probability, vast expanses of mostly empty space bound together by ancient, fundamental forces. Inside the human brain, during the vibrant years of life, trillions of synapses fire in a beautiful, chaotic symphony, creating the emergent property we call consciousness. When this grand symphony finally reaches its concluding notes, the individual instruments do not cease to exist. The electrons that once surged through neural pathways, carrying the spark of a cherished memory or a fleeting thought, are simply released from their temporary biological duties. They begin a new, quiet journey outward. According to the principles of quantum mechanics, particles that have interacted with each other can become entangled. Quantum entanglement is a phenomenon so strange and counterintuitive that even the brilliant Albert Einstein referred to it as spooky action at a distance. It suggests that two particles, once deeply connected, remain intertwined, sharing information instantaneously across vast distances, seemingly ignoring the constraints of space and time. Throughout a human lifetime, the countless particles within a body have interacted intimately, continuously sharing states and energy. In the first hour after the physical vessel shuts down, as these particles begin to drift apart and bond with the surrounding environment, one must wonder about the lingering threads of these quantum connections. Does the fundamental information of our experiences, encoded in the delicate quantum states of our physical matter, completely dissolve, or does it diffuse into the broader cosmos, maintaining some subtle, invisible resonance? We do not yet have definitive answers to these profound questions, but the very existence of such possibilities invites a deep, respectful awe. It challenges our rigid notions of an absolute ending and replaces them with a vision of infinite continuation. The renowned astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson often reminds us that we are biologically connected to every other living thing in the world, chemically connected to all molecules on Earth, and atomically connected to all atoms in the universe. This is not merely a poetic sentiment, it is a rigorous scientific fact. The iron in our blood, the calcium in our bones, the oxygen in our lungs, all of it was forged in the fiery hearts of ancient, dying stars. When we reach the end of our biological journey, we are simply returning these borrowed elements to the vast, infinite cosmos that so generously lent them to us. This realization fosters a profound sense of peace and humility. It reminds us that our temporary physical forms are just one brief, beautiful expression of a much larger, ongoing cosmic process. As the first hour progresses, the process of entropy, the fundamental tendency of the universe to move from order to disorder, begins its gentle, inevitable work. The highly structured, incredibly complex biological systems that maintained the living body start to break down, releasing their stored energy back into the surrounding environment. This is often perceived as a tragic decay, a loss of something precious, but through the lens of physics, It is a magnificent redistribution, a returning of concentrated energy to the broader, chaotic embrace of the universe. The heat that leaves the cooling skin warms the surrounding air molecules, giving them a tiny burst of kinetic energy. These molecules then collide with others, spreading that energy outward in an ever-expanding invisible ripple. In a very real, physical sense, the warmth of a life literally touches the surrounding world, becoming an inseparable part of the atmospheric currents that sweep across the planet. Even the quietest breath, the final exhalation, releases ancient carbon atoms back into the atmosphere, where they might one day be absorbed by a towering oak tree or a blade of grass, continuing the endless cycle of life and transformation. In the quiet silence of that room, a profound mystery is unfolding. The boundary between the individual and the universe, which always seemed so clear and solid during life, begins to soften and blur. The particles that were once tightly bound by the rules of biology are now governed by the broader, deeper laws of chemistry and quantum physics. They are free to embark on new journeys, to form new bonds, to participate in the endless, swirling dance of creation and dissolution that defines our cosmos. As we sit with this realization, the fear of the unknown can gently transform into a deep, comforting wonder. We begin to see that what we call death is not a wall, but a door. It is a transition from one state of complexity to another, from a localized, bounded existence to a more diffuse, expansive integration with the universe. The human mind, with its natural desire for narrative and closure, struggles to grasp the concept of an existence without a defined boundary. We are so accustomed to the feeling of being a separate, isolated self, looking out at the world from behind our eyes, but physics tells us a different story. It tells us that this sense of separation is, at least in part, an illusion. At the fundamental quantum level, there are no sharp dividing lines between here and there, between self and other. The fields of energy that constitute our bodies extend outward, interacting continuously with the fields of the environment. In the first hour of transition, this illusion of separation dissolves completely. The physical form returns to the earth, the energy radiates into the space, and the fundamental particles resume their ancient cosmic wandering. Let us gently focus our contemplation on a single specific element. Imagine a single atom of carbon, currently resting in a fading biological structure. For the past several decades, this atom has been part of a highly organized system, perhaps helping to form the delicate structure of a human eye, or the strong matrix of a bone. But its history is far older and far grander than this brief biological chapter. Billions of years ago, this very same atom was created in the crushing gravity and unimaginable heat of a dying star. It was violently ejected into the cold, silent void of space, where it drifted for eons, crossing distances so vast they defy human imagination. Eventually, it was pulled by gravity into a swirling cloud of gas and dust. Participating in the chaotic birth of our solar system, it became part of the primordial Earth, cycled through ancient oceans, drifted through prehistoric atmospheres, and perhaps even resided within the bodies of creatures long extinct. Now, in this quiet, sacred hour of transition, this ancient traveler is simply preparing for its next grand adventure. As the cellular bonds weaken and the physical structure yields to the gentle pull of entropy, this carbon atom will be released. It will fall to the earth, join the soil, and become available for a new manifestation of life. This is the profound truth that science reveals to us. There is no waste in the universe, no true destruction, only endless, beautiful transformation. The energy and matter that comprise us are indestructible, ancient, and eternal. When we truly internalize this scientific reality, the silence of the first hour after physical passing changes its texture. It is no longer a heavy, sorrowful silence, but a deep, resonant quiet, pregnant with the potential of infinite return. It is the peaceful sigh of a universe welcoming its temporary creations back into the fold. As we continue to explore the mysteries of the quantum realm, we may yet uncover even more profound connections between consciousness, information, and the fundamental fabric of reality. The journey of understanding is an infinite one, with each new discovery opening up deeper, more wondrous questions. But even with our current knowledge, we can find immense comfort in the undeniable physical continuity of our existence. We are a part of the cosmos, not apart from it. We are born from the stars, and to the stars we ultimately return, in a quiet, gentle journey that begins in the very first hour. This is the ultimate lesson the quantum universe offers us in that quiet space. Our temporary forms are exquisitely complex, breathtakingly beautiful, and undeniably fragile. But the fundamental essence of what we are, the energy, the matter, the ancient quantum information, is entirely indestructible. It has been here since the dawn of the cosmos, and it will remain here until the end of time, participating in the endless, wonderful dance of reality. So, let us continue our quiet exploration, moving gently forward in our understanding, carrying with us this newfound awe and this profound cosmic peace. Have you ever sat quietly and listened to the rhythmic ticking of a clock, feeling the strange, almost elastic nature of time as it stretches and compresses around your thoughts? Time is perhaps the most profound mystery we experience in our everyday lives, a silent river carrying us forward from the moment we are born. For centuries, humanity believed time was a rigid, universal metronome, ticking away at the exact same pace for everything and everyone, an unyielding force marching forward into the unknown. But the brilliant mind of Albert Einstein shattered this illusion, revealing a universe where time is fundamentally woven together with space, creating a flexible, dynamic fabric we now call space-time. He showed us that time is entirely relative, bending and slowing down near massive objects or when an observer is traveling at incredible speeds. In the gentle, quiet silence of the first hour after physical passing, we must pause and wonder how the very nature of time itself applies to the profound transition taking place. To the loving observer sitting vigil in that quiet room, holding a cooling hand, 60 minutes might feel like an agonizing eternity, an ocean of silence stretching out endlessly. Yet, from the grand perspective of the cosmos, it is merely a microscopic fraction of a single rotation of our small blue planet. But what of the internal reality? What happens to the flow of time for the quantum information that once constituted a conscious, perceiving observer? In the rigorous framework of quantum mechanics, the role of the observer is entirely central. Yet it remains deeply mysterious and endlessly debated. The famous double-slit experiment, a fundamental cornerstone of quantum physics, demonstrates that the mere act of observing a quantum system forces it to choose a definite state, collapsing what physicists elegantly call the wave function. Before observation, a subatomic particle exists in a state of probability, a ghostly superposition of all possible outcomes and paths. It is the interaction with the observer, the exchange of physical information, that solidifies the fluid potential into concrete reality. During the vibrant span of a human life, the brain acts as the ultimate biological observer, continuously processing vast amounts of sensory information, collapsing infinite probabilities into the singular, unified experience we call reality. But in that crucial, sacred first hour, as the biological machinery begins its gentle, inevitable powering down, the capacity for this localized observation begins to fade. The billions of neurons that once fired in perfect synchronized harmony to create a continuous perception of the world slowly fall silent. As this localized biological observer dissolves, does the quantum information it held simply vanish, or does it return to a state of boundless potential? Does the wave function of a single, localized life begin to expand, unbinding itself from the strict constraints of a specific place and a specific moment in time? This is not a concept meant to incite fear or anxiety, but rather to inspire a profound, respectful wonder regarding our place in the universe. It suggests that the end of biological observation is not the erasure of existence, but a gentle return to a more fundamental, infinite state of being, without the rigid framework of the biological brain forcing the universe into a strict, linear sequence of past, present, and future. The transitioning energy might experience reality in a vastly different, more expansive way. Theoretical physicists often discuss the concept of the block universe, a fascinating model emerging from the complex equations of relativity, which suggests that the past, the present, and the future all exist simultaneously in a grand, unchanging four-dimensional structure. In this view, the passage of time is merely an illusion created by our specific, limited human consciousness, moving continuously through the block. If this is the true nature of reality, then the life that has just concluded is not erased from the cosmos at all. It remains permanently etched in the fundamental fabric of space-time, a beautiful, unique pattern of energy and events that exists forever in its own designated coordinates of the universe. The quiet room is not a place of profound loss, but a sacred coordinate where a localized perspective simply ceased its forward motion through the block, while the magnificent pattern it created remains an eternal, indestructible part of the cosmic architecture. Let us look closer, with our mind's eye, at the physical manifestation of this transition deep within the cooling tissues, where an invisible, beautiful phenomenon is taking place. Every living cell in a biological body emits a very faint, continuous glow of light. Scientists call these delicate emissions biophotons. They are ultra-weak emissions of electromagnetic energy, believed to be the necessary result of metabolic chemical reactions, a microscopic luminescent hum that constantly accompanies the complex processes of life. We are, in a very literal, measurable, physical sense, beings of light. We hold tiny, delicate sparks of ancient electromagnetic radiation within our physical forms. During the vibrant years of existence, this biophotonic emission is highly organized, a coherent rhythm that perfectly reflects the health and vitality of the organism. But in the quiet journey of that first hour, as the cellular structures begin their necessary, natural dismantling, this organized emission of light changes its fundamental character. The cells, no longer able to maintain their complex internal order against the gentle, inevitable pull of entropy, release their final, stored photons into the surrounding darkness. It is a microscopic fading of the light, an invisible, peaceful diffusion of energy that escapes the bounds of human perception. Imagine it not as a sudden, violent extinguishing of a harsh flame, but rather as the gentle, lingering glow of embers in a quiet hearth as a long evening slowly draws to a close. These photons, these infinitesimal packets of pure energy, carry with them the fundamental physical signature of their creation. They travel outward into the quiet room, completely invisible to the human eye, but undeniably real and active within the physical universe. Some of these escaping photons will be absorbed by the surrounding walls, the fabric of the furniture, or the air itself, adding a microscopic, untraceable fraction of warmth to the environment. The energy of the life lived literally touches the immediate world, becoming an inseparable physical part of the space it leaves behind. Other photons, perhaps escaping through an open window or passing seamlessly through a pane of glass, will begin an infinite, silent journey across the vast cosmos. Traveling at the absolute speed limit of the universe, 300,000 kilometers per second, these tiny fragments of light will soar past our moon, out beyond the orbit of distant, frozen planets, and into the endless, silent void of the Milky Way galaxy. They will travel forever, carrying a faint, silent echo of the life that once burned so brightly here on our fragile world. To truly grasp the magnitude of this quiet transition, we must delve even further into the strange and beautiful phenomenon of quantum coherence. In the realm of quantum biology, a fascinating field that exists at the very edge of our current scientific understanding, rigorous researchers are discovering that the chaotic, warm, and wet environment of a living biological body can somehow sustain incredibly delicate quantum states. Photosynthesis in plants, the astonishing navigational compasses of migratory birds, and perhaps even the mysterious workings of the human sense of smell rely on particles existing in a state of quantum coherence, where multiple particles act together in perfect synchronized harmony, sharing a single unified quantum state. Some visionary physicists and scientists have theorized that the very phenomenon of human consciousness might arise from massive, orchestrated quantum coherence occurring within the microscopic structures of our brain cells. If this bold, beautiful hypothesis holds true, it means that our subjective experience, our sense of self, is fundamentally a quantum phenomenon, a delicate melody played on the strings of the universe's most fundamental fabric. During the first hour after physical passing, as the biological systems that carefully maintained this incredibly fragile coherence begin to finally power down, what happens to that unified quantum state? It does not simply vanish into thin air, because the universe does not allow information to be completely destroyed. In quantum physics, when a coherent system interacts with its disorganized environment, it undergoes a natural process called decoherence. The perfectly synchronized particles begin to gently interact with the surrounding atoms and molecules, naturally losing their shared state and becoming completely entangled with the broader, chaotic environment of the room and the air. The information contained within that coherent state, the unique quantum signature of a mind, leaks out into the surrounding universe. It is a profound process of unbinding, a gentle, inevitable scattering of the individual self into the infinite complexity of the cosmos. The localized melody of a single life does not end in silence. It merely diffuses, its individual notes joining the grand, eternal symphony of the universe's background hum. This continuous, unbreakable flow of quantum information ensures that nothing of true, fundamental value is ever truly lost to the void. The quietness of the transition is not the heavy silence of an absolute ending, but the breathless, peaceful pause before a new, infinite movement in the magnificent cosmic dance. Let us rest in this deep understanding, allowing the profound reality of our unbreakable physical connection to the universe to bring a gentle calm to our restless minds, preparing us to explore even deeper layers of this cosmic transition together. As we sink deeper into the meditative quiet of the first hour, let us turn our attention away from the solid, tangible world and look into the spaces between the atoms. When we look around a silent room where a life has just transitioned, our human eyes tell us that the space is empty, filled only with still air and fading light. But quantum physics reveals a reality so wondrous, so deeply counterintuitive, that it completely transforms our understanding of emptiness. In the rigorously tested framework of quantum field theory, there is no such thing as a true empty void. What we perceive as empty space is actually a churning, dynamic ocean of invisible energy, known as the quantum vacuum. It is a vast, ancient sea of potential, where virtual particles constantly pop into existence and vanish in fractions of a microsecond. This bubbling quantum foam is the fundamental substrate of the universe, the infinite canvas upon which the masterpiece of physical reality is painted. During a human lifetime, our physical bodies navigate through this quantum sea, seemingly separate from it, bound by the strict biological forces that hold our cells together. But in that sacred, gentle transition, those boundaries begin to soften. The energy that animated the localized form begins to interact more freely with this underlying cosmic ocean. It is not a disappearance into nothingness, but a profound dissolution into the infinite. A quiet merging with the fundamental foundation of the cosmos. Consider the beautiful mystery of your own heartbeat, a rhythm that has kept time since before you took your very first breath. Every single contraction of the human heart is triggered by a precise electrical impulse, a localized storm of ions crossing cellular membranes. This rhythmic firing generates a measurable electromagnetic field that radiates outward from the chest, extending invisibly into the space around the body. In the final moments of transition, as this biological metronome slows and eventually finds its ultimate stillness, the electrical generator powers down. Yet, the electromagnetic waves that were generated over a lifetime do not stop existing. Like ripples cast upon the surface of a perfectly still pond, they continue to propagate outward at the speed of light, traveling through the walls of the room, ascending through the Earth's atmosphere, and slipping quietly out into the vast, dark expanse of the solar system. The electromagnetic signature of a life, the invisible echo of every laugh, every moment of deep contemplation, and every heartbeat of profound love becomes a permanent, traveling component of the universe. It is a beautiful, invisible journey that continues long after the physical form has come to rest. A silent testament to the undeniable physical impact a single life has upon the fabric of reality. We are left to wonder about the cosmic destinations of these invisible waves, rippling endlessly through the ancient silence of space. To truly appreciate the deep peace hidden within this transition, we must fundamentally shift our understanding of what it means to be an individual entity. Our brains are beautifully adapted to perceive boundaries, to clearly distinguish where our skin ends and the rest of the world begins. This perception is essential for biological survival, but it is, at its core, a magnificent illusion. From the perspective of quantum mechanics, your body is not a solid, isolated object. It is a dense, highly organized temporary fluctuation in the underlying quantum fields that fill all of existence. You are a localized wave in an infinite ocean. When a wave crashes upon the shore and loses its distinct elevated shape, the water does not vanish. It simply returns to the vast, undivided body of the sea, ready to participate in the endless tides and currents. Similarly, the end of physical life is the relaxing of a highly organized state. The fundamental particles, the ancient atoms forged in the fiery hearts of primordial stars, simply lose their strict biological architecture. They are released from their temporary duty of maintaining an ego, a specific identity, and are free to return to the gentle, chaotic embrace of the natural world. This unbinding is not a tragic defeat against the forces of nature, but a necessary, beautiful surrender to the profound, underlying unity of the cosmos. Let us gaze out at the incomprehensible scale of the universe to find comfort in our own physical transformation. Astronomers have discovered that all the matter we can see, the billions of galaxies, the trillions of blazing stars, the colorful nebulas, and the solid planets, make up only a tiny fraction of the cosmos. The vast majority of reality is composed of invisible phenomena we call dark matter and dark energy. We cannot see them, we cannot touch them, yet we know they are there because we can observe their profound gravitational influence shaping the destiny of the universe. In many ways, the transition of the first hour mirrors this cosmic reality. The visible, tangible aspects of a person, the body that can be touched and the face that can be seen, represent only a small fraction of their true energetic presence. As the biological form rests, the essence of that existence transitions fully into the unseen. The warmth dissipates into the invisible atmospheric currents. The elemental carbon begins its silent return to the soil, and the profound quantum information diffuses into the hidden fields of probability. The transition is merely a shift from the visible fraction of reality into the vast, mysterious, and infinitely larger realm of the unseen universe. It is a gentle reminder that what lies beyond our immediate biological senses is not a terrifying void, but a rich, complex, and beautiful continuum of existence. In this quiet expansion of our perspective, we can begin to see the extraordinary grace hidden within the laws of thermodynamics. The second law, which governs the flow of entropy, tells us that the universe naturally moves toward a state of equilibrium, a spreading out of concentrated energy. For decades, many have viewed entropy with a sense of quiet dread, seeing it as the ultimate destroyer of structure and life. But what if we reframe this physical law through the lens of a meditative, contemplative journey? Entropy is not a malicious force of destruction. It is the universe's profound mechanism for sharing. It is the great equalizer, the invisible hand that ensures no localized concentration of energy is hoarded forever. During the first hour after the final breath, the high state of localized biological order begins to yield to this gentle, cosmic sharing. The concentrated energy of a single life is lovingly distributed back to the Earth, returning the borrowed elements to the planetary ecosystem. This is a supreme act of biological generosity, governed by the unbreakable rules of physics. Without this necessary return, without this constant, quiet recycling of energy and matter, new life, new stars, and new worlds could never be born. The transition is the essential, beautiful sacrifice that sustains the infinite, ongoing creation of the cosmos. As we sit in the profound stillness of our contemplation, let us reflect on the very concept of silence itself. In our human experience, silence is often defined as the absence of noise, a lack of communication, a heavy void. But in the grand quantum reality, there is no true silence. What we perceive as nothingness is actually humming with the subtle, continuous vibration of fundamental strings and fluctuating fields. The space left behind when a physical presence departs is not an empty, silent crater. It is a space vibrating with the invisible resonances of the energy that was just released. It is a space where the universe is quietly, efficiently reorganizing itself, welcoming back the atoms and photons that have completed their temporary, magnificent journey as a human being. This realization completely transforms the way we experience the first hour of transition. We are no longer waiting in a terrifying, empty quiet. We are participating as observers in a majestic, invisible symphony of cosmic return. We are witnessing the precise moment when the strict rules of biology gently hand the baton over to the deeper, older laws of quantum physics and chemistry. It is a moment of profound, reverent wonder, an invitation to trust in the magnificent, indestructible nature of the universe that birthed us. Let this gentle truth wash over you, smoothing away the sharp edges of apprehension. You are an intricate, exquisite expression of the cosmos itself, a magnificent collection of ancient stardust and boundless quantum energy that has temporarily learned to think and to feel. When the biological systems finally power down, you do not lose your place in the universe. Rather, you trade a restricted biological perspective for an infinite integration. The fundamental information that constitutes your unique consciousness is held safely in the unbreakable embrace of the laws of physics, ready to journey onward in the endless narrative of creation. Have you ever stood by the shore of a vast, breathing ocean, watching a single drop of rain fall into the dark, turbulent water, and wondered exactly at what precise moment it stops being a solitary drop and becomes the infinite sea itself? It is a question that challenges our deeply ingrained perception of boundaries, a beautiful paradox that forces us to question where one thing truly ends and another begins. This gentle dissolution, this quiet merging of the small into the impossibly vast, serves as a perfect, profound metaphor for the physical reality of what happens to the human vessel in the very first hour after the biological rhythm gracefully concludes. When we sit in the heavy, expectant silence of a room where a life has just completed its earthly arc, our eyes deceive us into believing that a definitive end has occurred, that a boundary has been permanently sealed. But physics, with its unyielding commitment to the deeper truths of nature, whispers a far more comforting and magnificent story. It tells us that what we are witnessing is not a termination, but a breathtakingly complex phase transition, a softening of boundaries, and a magnificent return to the cosmic source. Let us gently peel back the layers of our perception and explore this silent, invisible unbinding, tracing the journey of the very elements that compose our physical form as they begin their slow, beautiful reintegration with the vast universe. Consider, for a moment, the profound nature of the water that makes up more than 60% of the human body. We are, essentially, magnificent vessels of structured water, intricate biological aqueducts navigating a dry world. This water is not just a neutral solvent. It is the ancient, dynamic stage upon which the entire drama of our biological existence has played out. The molecules of water within you, each a tiny union of 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom, carry a history so staggering that it defies ordinary human comprehension. The oxygen was forged in the immense, crushing pressure of a dying star millions of years ago, a stellar furnace that cooked simple elements into heavier ones before exploding and scattering its riches across the deep, silent void of space. But the hydrogen, the most abundant element in the cosmos, is far older. The hydrogen atoms currently resting within your cells were born in the primordial fire of the universe itself, nearly 14 billion years ago, during the very dawn of creation. For 14 billion years, these ancient particles have traveled through the unimaginable depths of space, participating in the birth of early galaxies, swirling through glowing nebulas, and eventually falling into the gravitational embrace of our young sun to become part of the forming Earth. They have flowed through prehistoric rivers, fallen as ancient rain, and now, for a brief, fleeting moment in cosmic time, they have assembled themselves to form you. In the first hour of the transition we call death, these ancient, tireless travelers begin their quiet preparation for the next leg of their infinite journey. As the internal heat generator of the metabolism powers down, the delicate thermal equilibrium that kept this water bound in highly specific biological structures begins to gently shift. The laws of thermodynamics, unyielding and universal, dictate that the concentrated heat must disperse, seeking balance with the cooler surrounding environment. As the physical form slowly cools, an invisible, microscopic exhalation occurs. Through the skin, through the resting lungs, tiny amounts of moisture begin to evaporate, transitioning from a liquid state into a gaseous vapor. This is not a tragic loss, but a beautiful physical liberation. The water molecules, released from their biological duty, rise invisibly into the air of the quiet room, joining the atmospheric currents that circulate across the entire planet. They carry with them the microscopic thermal energy of the life just lived, a final physical breath that literally becomes part of the sky. In this quiet, invisible process, the rigid boundary between the individual and the world begins to dissolve. The person is no longer confined to the geometry of a body. They are slowly, molecularly, becoming the atmosphere, the weather, the very air that the rest of the world breathes. To deepen our contemplative understanding of this unbinding, we can turn to the visionary ideas of David Bohm, one of the most profound theoretical physicists of the 20th century. Bohm was deeply troubled by the fragmented way we often perceive the universe, seeing it as a collection of separate, disconnected parts. He proposed a radically different model, suggesting that the reality we observe, the world of individual people, distinct objects, and separate events, is merely what he called the explicate order, an unfolded, temporary manifestation of a much deeper, hidden reality. Beneath this explicate order, Bohm argued, lies the implicate order, a vast, unbroken wholeness where everything is infinitely enfolded into everything else, completely interconnected in a single, continuous fabric of existence. From this breathtaking perspective, a human life is a temporary unfolding, a specific pattern that has emerged from the cosmic background to experience a localized journey. And what happens in that quiet, sacred first hour after the biological machinery rests? It is the gentle beginning of the enfolding process. The specific, unfolded pattern of the individual begins to fold back into the vast, implicate wholeness of the universe. This folding is a process of supreme elegance, governed by mathematical laws that weave the fabric of reality together with unfathomable precision. The illusion of absolute separation dissolves, revealing the profound underlying unity that was always there, hidden just beneath the surface of our everyday perception. If we embrace this vision of an unbroken wholeness, the heavy silence of the room takes on a completely different texture. It is no longer a void left by an absence, but a space vibrating with the profound resonance of a return. As the quantum coherence that potentially sustained consciousness begins to gracefully decohere, entangling with the surrounding environment, the fundamental information of the individual does not vanish. It simply spreads out, becoming woven into the greater fabric of the cosmos. Think of a complex, beautiful melody played on a solitary violin. When the musician stops playing, the sound waves do not immediately disappear. They ripple outward, reflecting off the walls, losing their concentrated intensity but gaining an infinite reach, their energy eventually absorbed by the very structure of the room. The melody is no longer localized, but it has irreversibly changed the physical state of the environment. In the same way, the quantum melody of a human life, composed of trillions of interacting particles and fields, loses its localized biological focus in that first hour, only to become a subtle, permanent vibration within the vast symphony of the universe. The universe is forever changed, forever enriched, because that specific unique pattern of energy was successfully unfolded and then lovingly received back into the whole. This leads us to the greatest mystery of all, the deep existential wonder regarding the nature of the observing self. If quantum mechanics teaches us that the observer plays a fundamental role in collapsing the wave function, forcing the universe to choose a single reality from an infinite sea of possibilities, what happens when that biological observer ceases to actively observe? During life, your continuous perception forces your immediate universe into a strict, linear progression of events. You lock reality into place with your every glance. But in the gentle release of the first hour, as this biological constraint fades, might the fundamental essence of the individual experience a return to a state of superposition? Might the rigid boundaries of past, present, and future begin to blur, allowing a return to a timeless state of pure, unbounded potential? We do not possess the scientific instruments to measure the subjective experience of this transition, but the very mathematics of quantum theory provide a framework where such profound possibilities can be rigorously contemplated. It suggests that the end of biological observation is not a plunge into darkness, but an expansion into a state of all possibilities, a return to the infinite quantum sea from which the localized wave first emerged. As we sit with these profound cosmic concepts, the fear that so often accompanies the idea of our final transition begins to gently melt away, replaced by a deep, abiding sense of awe and connection. We realize that we are not fragile beings, fighting a losing battle against a cold, indifferent universe. We are magnificent, temporary expressions of the cosmos itself, ancient stardust that has learned to think, to love, and to wonder. The quiet hour after the final breath is not a defeat. It is the completion of a breathtaking biological performance and the beginning of a magnificent cosmic encore. The hydrogen that formed you will eventually find its way back to the stars. The thermal energy that warmed you will ripple across the galaxy. The quantum information that defined you will remain forever etched in the indestructible fabric of space-time. The universe, in all its infinite wisdom and boundlessness, does not know how to lose anything of true value. It only knows how to transform, to reorganize, and to endlessly recreate. The silence you hear is not the absence of life, but the quiet hum of a universe receiving its own energy back into its infinite embrace. As we close our eyes and reflect on this profound reintegration, we can feel a deep, comforting connection to the vastness of space. a reminder that we are forever held within the endless, silent tapestry of the cosmos. Let this gentle, scientific truth bring a profound peace to your mind, knowing that the journey is never truly over, but merely changing its beautiful, infinite form as we prepare to follow this transformation even further into the heart of the cosmic mystery. Have you ever closed your eyes and recalled a memory so vivid, so breathtakingly real, that for a fleeting fraction of a second, you were entirely transported back through the corridors of time? Perhaps it was the gentle warmth of a summer afternoon from your childhood, the exact scent of rain on dry earth, or the profound echoing silence of a moment shared with someone you loved deeply. These moments feel ethereal, like weightless ghosts dancing in the theater of the mind, completely detached from the rigid laws of the physical universe. But science tells us a radically different and far more magnificent story. Memories are not ghosts. They are strictly physical phenomena, deeply etched into the biological architecture of our brains. They are precise arrangements of matter and energy, specific patterns of synaptic connections holding the unique narrative of a human life. As we continue our contemplative journey into the profound mysteries of the first hour after physical transition, we must bravely ask what happens to this vast, intricate library of experiences when the biological librarian finally powers down. Does the library burn, or are its contents somehow transferred into the infinite, ancient archives of the cosmos? To answer this, we must dive into the very heart of quantum information theory, a realm where the boundaries between physical matter and pure knowledge completely dissolve into a breathtaking tapestry of reality. To truly grasp the destiny of our memories, we must first understand how they are built and sustained. During the vibrant, active years of a human life, the brain operates as an unimaginably complex electrochemical engine. Every time you learn a new fact, experience a profound emotion, or simply observe a quiet sunset, physical changes occur within your skull. Neurons reach out to one another, forming delicate, microscopic bridges called synapses. Chemical messengers flood these gaps, and electrical impulses race along these pathways, strengthening the connections with every subsequent recall. Your identity, your sense of self, and the comprehensive record of your entire existence are physically encoded in this staggering network of nearly 100 billion neurons and their trillions of connections. It is a biological hard drive of astonishing capacity and complexity, constantly rewriting itself, constantly maintaining a high state of localized order against the natural, universal pull of entropy. But this maintenance requires a continuous, massive supply of energy. The brain, while only comprising a tiny percentage of our total body weight, consumes a vast, disproportionate amount of our metabolic resources just to keep this delicate, organized structure from collapsing. In the gentle, sacred quiet of the first hour of transition, this continuous supply of metabolic energy gracefully ceases. The oxygen is depleted, the intricate cellular pumps stop their tireless work, and the electrical storm that once illuminated the grand city of the mind slowly begins to dim. The synapses, no longer supported by the energetic forces of life, start to lose their rigid structural integrity. From a purely biological perspective, this process looks like the irreversible erasure of a beautiful, irreplaceable masterpiece. It appears as though the memories, the loves, the hard-won wisdom, and the unique perspective of that specific individual are simply dissolving into a dark, silent void. But, as we have already learned, The universe operates on principles that are far deeper and far more resilient than the fragile rules of biology. In the rigorous, unforgiving realm of physics, there is a concept known as Landauer's principle, which establishes a fundamental, unbreakable link between information and physical reality. It dictates that information is not merely an abstract mathematical concept. It is a physical entity. It has a thermodynamic cost. It possesses entropy. And, most importantly, it is subject to the absolute laws of conservation. The conservation of quantum information is one of the most fiercely defended principles in all of modern theoretical physics. It insists that the fundamental microscopic details of a system, the precise quantum states of all its interacting particles, can never be permanently destroyed. The information might become scrambled. It might become completely illegible to our current limited human technology, and it might diffuse across vast distances, but it remains permanently embedded in the fundamental fabric of the cosmos. To understand the sheer, uncompromising strength of this principle, we must look away from the quiet room and cast our gaze toward the most violent, extreme objects in the entire known universe. Black holes. For decades, the brilliant physicist Stephen Hawking engaged in a legendary intellectual battle with his colleagues, including Leonard Susskind, over what happens to information that falls into the inescapable gravitational grip of a black hole. Hawking initially proposed that as a black hole eventually evaporates over unfathomably long timescales, radiating away its mass, the information contained within it is lost forever. A true, absolute destruction that violated the core tenets of quantum mechanics. This proposition sent shockwaves through the scientific community, triggering a desperate search for a solution to what became known as the black hole information paradox. The resolution to this profound mystery, which Hawking himself eventually accepted, gave birth to one of the most beautiful, mind-bending concepts in all of human thought: the holographic principle. Susskind and others demonstrated that when an object falls into a black hole, its three-dimensional information is not lost in the dark singularity. Instead, it is perfectly, completely encoded onto the two-dimensional surface of the black hole's event horizon, the invisible boundary of no return. Like a cosmic hologram, the three-dimensional reality of the object is preserved as a mathematically flattened, scrambled pattern of quantum data on the boundary of the space it occupies. The profound implication of this discovery extends far beyond the exotic realm of black holes. Many theoretical physicists now suspect that the holographic principle might apply to the entire universe itself. They propose that everything we experience as a three-dimensional reality, including the complex biological structures of our own brains, might be a holographic projection of fundamental information encoded on a distant, two-dimensional boundary of the cosmos. If we bravely apply this breathtaking cosmic perspective to the quiet reality of the first hour after physical passing, the narrative of death is completely and forever transformed. As the localized biological brain begins its natural process of unbinding, the physical structures that housed our memories lose their coherence. The electrical gradients collapse, the chemical bonds weaken, and the highly organized state gives way to entropy. But the fundamental quantum information that defined those memories, the precise, unique arrangement of particles and fields that represented your experiences, cannot be destroyed. As the physical structure decoheres, this information simply diffuses. It becomes intricately entangled with the surrounding environment, radiating outward in the fading thermal energy, the escaping biophotons, and the dispersing electromagnetic fields. Like a drop of highly concentrated dye falling into a vast, ancient ocean, the specific, localized structure of the drop disappears. But the chemical reality of the dye is not lost. It merely becomes perfectly, irreversibly integrated into the entirety of the sea. The information of a human life leaves the fragile, temporary vessel of the brain and uploads itself into the indestructible, infinite hard drive of the universe. Imagine, for a moment, the journey of a single, highly specific memory during this transition. Let us imagine the memory of a profound realization, a moment of deep, quiet understanding that occurred on a starlit night many years ago. This memory was physically sustained by a specific network of millions of neurons, holding a delicate, coherent quantum state. In the first hour of transition, as the biological anchors give way, the quantum state of this memory does not simply vanish into nothingness. Through the process of quantum decoherence, the particles that held this information begin to interact with the broader environment. They entangle with the air molecules in the room, with the fabric of the bed, and with the fundamental fields that permeate empty space. The information is mathematically scrambled, mixed with the background noise of the cosmos, making it impossible for a biological brain to ever retrieve or read it again. But from the perspective of the universe, from the viewpoint of the infinite implicate order, the information is perfectly preserved. It is woven into the very geometry of space-time. The precise pattern of that moment of realization becomes a permanent, indestructible feature of the cosmic architecture. The universe is physically different, forever altered, because that thought was thought, because that memory was formed, and because that specific life was lived. This realization invites us into a state of profound, unprecedented peace. It frees us from the terrifying illusion that our existence is merely a fleeting, meaningless spark in an apathetic void. We are not temporary anomalies destined to be erased without a trace. We are the universe itself, experiencing itself in a highly organized, localized form for a brief, beautiful window of time. Our memories, our struggles, our deep loves, and our quietest moments of wonder are not lost when the biological machinery fails. They are the harvest that the universe is constantly gathering. Every life is a unique, irreplaceable volume of data, an experiment in consciousness that enriches the infinite complexity of the cosmos. In the silence of that room, the end of the biological process is simply the final transmission of this data. It is the moment when the localized perspective surrenders its boundaries and allows its accumulated wisdom, recorded in the strict language of quantum mechanics, to merge with the eternal, underlying reality. The gentle, quiet journey of the first hour is not a journey into dark oblivion, but a spectacular, invisible blossoming into the infinite. Let us allow the magnitude of this cosmic truth to gently settle over us, calming the primal fears that echo in the older parts of our minds. The vast, ancient universe that birthed the galaxies, ignited the stars, and carefully guided the long, slow evolution of life on our small blue planet is not a careless creator. It is governed by laws of profound elegance and absolute conservation. It does not waste a single electron. It does not lose a single photon. And it certainly does not discard the magnificent, hard-won quantum information that constitutes the essence of a conscious mind. As we continue to sit in the quiet, meditative space of this exploration, we can feel a deep, comforting connection to the vastness of the cosmos stretching out in all directions. The silence is no longer an absence, but a presence, a heavy, beautiful tapestry of preserved experiences and endless potential. We are part of an infinite, ongoing story, a narrative written in the fundamental particles of reality, forever preserved in the holographic boundaries of space-time. And so, we continue our quiet journey, moving deeper into the beautiful scientific mysteries of the transition, armed with the knowledge that nothing of true, fundamental value is ever lost in this magnificent, wondrous universe. Have you ever stood in the fading light of a quiet evening, looking up at the countless stars scattered across the vast canvas of the sky, and felt the sudden weight of a single choice? We navigate our lives through an endless series of decisions, charting a singular path through the mysterious landscape of time. From the localized human perspective, we experience reality as a single, unbroken line, a solitary thread woven linearly through the grand tapestry of existence. But what if this deeply ingrained perception of a solitary reality is just another magnificent illusion? A practical trick played by our biological senses to help us navigate a universe infinitely more complex than we could begin to imagine. As we sink deeper into the profound, meditative silence of the first hour after physical transition, we must gently open our minds to one of the most breathtaking concepts in modern theoretical physics: the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. This is a journey into the true infinite, a quiet, contemplative exploration of a reality where every single possibility is realized, and where the human concept of an absolute ending completely dissolves into a vast ocean of endless, branching continuation. In the traditional understanding of quantum mechanics, we are taught that subatomic particles exist in a hazy state of probability until they are consciously or mechanically observed, at which point the wave function collapses, forcing the universe to choose a single outcome from a sea of potentials. This sudden collapse has troubled the greatest minds in physics for nearly a century, because the actual, rigorous mathematics of quantum theory do not physically describe any such abrupt collapse. The elegant equations simply describe an evolving wave of probability that never arbitrarily chooses a single path. In 1957, a brilliant physicist named Hugh Everett proposed a radically different, breathtakingly elegant solution to this profound quantum mystery. He suggested that the wave function never actually collapses at all. Instead, Everett proposed that every single time a quantum interaction occurs, every time a particle is faced with multiple physical possibilities, the universe itself literally splits, branching off into separate, parallel, and equally real realities. In one universe, the particle spins upward. In another, perfectly real, newly created universe, the particle spins downward. Both outcomes definitively occur, but they occur in separate, non-interacting branches of a vast, unimaginably complex structure we now tentatively call the multiverse. To even begin to grasp the sheer, staggering magnitude of this concept, we must try to visualize the incredibly vast number of quantum interactions that occur every single second within a human body, within a quiet room, and across the entire breathing planet. With every microscopic event, with every photon striking a surface and every electron jumping in orbit, the universe branches. The reality we currently perceive, the specific room you might be imagining right now, is merely one specific, infinitesimally thin branch on an unimaginably vast, ancient cosmic tree. This is not mere science fiction or philosophical poetry. It is a serious, mathematically rigorous interpretation of the fundamental laws of nature, currently debated and supported by many of the world's most brilliant theoretical physicists. When we bravely apply this profound, dizzying concept to the quiet, sacred transition of the first hour after a biological passing, the entire narrative of a life and its presumed ending is irrevocably rewritten. If the universe is constantly branching, fully realizing every conceivable quantum probability, then the specific version of the individual who has just completed their physical journey in this particular room is only one localized manifestation of an infinite number of existences. The biological life that has just gently powered down its machinery is merely one beautiful, specific variation of an unimaginably grand, cosmic theme. Imagine a grand symphony orchestra playing a breathtaking, complex composition in an acoustically perfect hall. In our perceived, everyday reality, we hear only one specific performance, one unique, fleeting combination of timing, emotion, minor mistakes, and brilliant acoustics. But in the reality of the multiverse, that exact same symphony is being simultaneously played in an infinite number of concert halls. In some branches, the performance is almost identical, containing only the most microscopic, unnoticeable quantum variations. In other, more distant branches, the tempo is completely different. The specific instruments are changed, or the melody takes an entirely unexpected, beautiful turn that we never heard here.